Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the second relaunched episode of DISENRAGE with Jennifire and I, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things like spirituality and aliens and ghosts and all those things. And today we're going to be talking about visitations. So, what does visitations mean, Jennifire? Can't hear you.
Unmuted. Got it. I'm good. So many buttons. Well, so it's when you have a spirit or entity or something come in to your general area. Usually they happen in your home. Sometimes they happen if you're in a hotel room, but it's when they're coming into your space, you're getting the visitation. And it's sometimes curious, sometimes beneficial, sometimes malevolent. And it goes from all different kinds of critters, all the gamut of the world of spirit and maybe aliens.
Yeah, see, I'm like I feel like I've had visitations before and I just don't remember them. I feel like I completely blacked them out of my head. And like I've talked about this before in terms of like I really think that I got abducted by aliens when I was a kid because it was one of those things where like I like my parents and it's so stupid and cheesy, but like my parents always used to watch like Unsolved Mysteries on like Friday or Saturday night. Whenever Unsolved Mysteries aired on like, you know, one before there were 87,000 channels, like we had like 5 and that and Unsolved Mysteries was on one of them. And so like every week we watched Unsolved Mysteries and I loved it except for like any of the episodes around like alien abduction. I got irrationally afraid. Like irrationally terrified. Like I would be like curled up into a ball in the fetal position. I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. And
interesting.
And the other thing too is like I can't remember my dreams. Like, and I almost never. Every once in a while, I get like a little glimmer of something, but like really almost never. And I've actually tried doing this too. Like Joshua always used to yell at me because he'd be like, "Karlyn, all you need to do is have a dream journal." I'd be like, "I have a fucking dream journal and I don't remember anything. Like it doesn't work." And so and so I was like, the aliens wiped my brain or something when I was a kid. And I can't remember I blocked it all out because it was so terrifying.
Oh my. Well, I mean, you don't have to remember dreams to retain the information conveyed. Sometimes you just know something suddenly and you don't know why. It could be a download, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't think that aliens interfere with all the dreams. That's something else going on with you. But with any kind of alien visitation, if you've got an irrational fear of abduction, you may have had an experience and they do usually wipe you, which is probably best depending on who took you. So, but yeah, I think like with dreams, that's a bit of a different genre. I'm not sure those two would have the relation.
Yeah. I don't know, but so how like have you had so how many visitations do you think you've experienced that you can recall? Because you're like hyper aware of this stuff. Like I'm not. I have a few pronounced experiences where I'm like, I know that was something. I know that was something. But most of the time, this stuff just goes like way over my head. But you actually understand it.
Yeah, I've had some interdimensional beings. I've seen, and I know this is the land of woo. People don't think I'm freaking crazy. It's the land of woo. Okay, I'm aware. So I have
had okay to be crazy.
It's
Milo Yiannopoulos told me yesterday it's okay to be weird.
I was like, okay, that's nice.
Thanks, Milo.
Thanks, Milo. Can I have a button? I have seen and spoken with gargoyles.
Gargoyles.
I have seen and spoken to imps. I have spoken to at least 2 different people who are possessed by evil entities, possibly demonic. Yeah, I have cleared houses of possession. I have done like exorcism of houses. And
are you like in The Conjuring? Like in the is that what you do? You like go in like in The Conjuring?
It's a little different, but everybody has their own method. But I've also, I've seen shadow people. Oh, 3 possessed people. Yeah, that one came to mind. I've seen a lot of spirits. I've seen orbs. I'm convinced a fairy came out of my shed about 4 or 5 years ago. I even have it on tape. I recorded it. There's a little light that comes out of my shed door, and it's all. It just goes across my entire yard and disappears. And it's not a firefly because it didn't blink or anything. And it came through a solid door.
I have this friend that I met on an ayahuasca retreat that like she puts fairy houses out in her garden,
Oh,
and
I
she
love
says the
that.
same thing. Yeah, she's like, I'm convinced like this is real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there's multi-level. We maybe don't call them the right thing. We maybe lack the words. The ancient words are lost to us. Most of the language we have to describe it, it relies on Celtic, Gaelic translations, some Middle Eastern, Indian things, but like that's all that's left. You know, some of the Druid terms. There's not a lot left. You know, honestly, if it wasn't for Tolkien, we'd probably forgotten all about a lot of the like elves and things like that. So, which I think may have existed, maybe not anymore, but back in the day, who knows? It's possible.
That's crazy. All right, I have so many questions. So, first of all, you said and this is I feel just like an obvious question that I just need to get out of the way just for myself. You said you like talked to like interdimensional beings. So, okay, like what do they look like? And do they look like Bigfoot? And is Bigfoot an interdimensional being? And that's why we never actually could get proof of Bigfoot, because Bigfoot just steps into a different dimension when Bigfoot needs to go away.
So maybe I can reach out to my friend at some point who is really heavy into the Bigfoot.
Yeah.
We have up in the mountains, we've got a shop that it's all Bigfoot stuff, and they are currently supposedly in communication with a family of big feets in the forest now.
No kidding.
Yeah, and she goes up and works in their store all the time. She's had tons of visitations. She even had a reptilian come down, or I haven't seen a reptilian yet. So fingers crossed. I'd rather not.
Why can't we ever get pictures of these things?
They're not. So if you're going to get a photo of something, you have to have a physical presence. You have to have something for the camera to grab onto, and otherwise you're not really going to see it. I don't know if you ever tried to take a picture of like mist. It doesn't always come out as well. But there are physical particles in mist. So the thing has to have physical particles. Usually they kind of do, but it's a little different. This is why they try to do like heat, like infrared cameras and stuff, getting heat signatures, things like that. I know there's a gentleman who goes out, I think he's done it in southern Colorado, and he's done it in New Mexico, and I think Arizona and Utah, where they go to these certain places, they meditate as a group, and then someone stands with a camera and takes pictures, and there's all these light alien beings that show up behind them. Yeah,
I know what that is. That's Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind.
It's not Fourth Kind, but it's the dude. He is from Ancient. He has been on Ancient Aliens though, and I can't think of his name. I'd have to look him up.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Like the documentary where they talk about I've done the meditations. The meditations are actually really cool, but the documentary I'm pretty sure is called Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind. Like that's the actual name of the movie with the guy. What is his name? The alien dude. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank. I'd have to start doing Google searches and shit. Let's see. But yeah, because I think first kind is seeing a ship. Second kind is, I think, seeing an alien. I think third kind is abduction, and fourth kind is spiritual.
Yeah, I'm just saying the name of the documentary. That's the actual. Yeah. So I don't know how it aligns. I'm just saying, like, there was a documentary on Amazon called Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, in which this guy talks about Greer. Yes, Greer, Stephen Greer. That's
that is it. Thanks, Sassy.
Yeah. And so he talks about like taking these groups out and doing these group meditations and connecting with and it made sense to me. Like that's how you connect with the aliens, is through meditation, is through thought, and then you can direct them to where you are. And they have all the documentary is actually cool. They've got like all the pictures of it and of all the cool stuff that they've seen. And I wanted to actually do like one of those meditation groups at one point, and I just never did. So those are real.
Yeah, that's bona fide. That's bona fide. But if you want to you can get, a lot of people have pictures of spirits, of orbs. Like you can get some of that because there is some material to it, and it's light, so it's photons. So you can get sometimes, but not always. I think if you actually see a physical critter somewhere, really pay attention to that. Like really if somebody showed up. I know a few members in our community have seen actual alien beings through windows in a room in a corner, and they've shown us pictures. And it's like, whoa, because like I haven't seen a physical alien being, and I'm kind of fine with that. That's like the one thing that scares me. I'm not scared of pretty much anything. I don't get freaked out. I watch horror movies all night long. It doesn't bother me. You put an alien in front of me and I'm going to lose my shit.
I wonder what they look like.
There's all different kinds. There's hundreds of races, you know. And in fact, there was a video I watched that he said he was a Russian journalist that drew pictures of all the alien beings that he says our world has been contacted by. So it doesn't have photos, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Reptilians, and you've got your insectoids, you've got your mantids, you've got the grays, tall and short. And then you have the avians, like, and the Aryans and Pleiadians, and there's just a bunch. There's tons.
Pleiadians. Oh my God, that goes back.
That's just a whole other subject, dude. That's its own show.
Yeah, for real. That's crazy. So really kind of like the world we live in is kind of a little bit like Men in Black, where there's this whole kind of like there's all these like other things that are in the world that people just don't recognize unless like you get unless you do recognize them, and then you can see them.
Once you kind of know what to look for. I've seen a golem once.
You've seen a golem?
I have seen a golem. Yeah, that was really weird. I've only seen one.
What was that like?
It was like a greenish, grayish, black oil slick moving through the air, and it was sent at me, and I got fired from the job from the person who was sending it. So they were coming for me, and then when it happened, I there was another witch there. She was a old school high priestess, old school, like born and raised and in a coven and taught by elders and stuff. And I went to her and I said, I have seen a golem. She's like, they're coming for you. She goes, I've seen it too. And she described it before I did, because I don't like to like feed people's brains and say, did it look like? Because then they go, oh yeah, it did. I'm like, what did it look like to you? And I'll tell you what it looked like to me. And she said, it looked like this oil slick, like a greenish oil slick. I said, yeah, that's what I saw. And it's, you know, and it's just wavering, you know, like a wispy cloud, but a really icky. I can't describe why I say oil and not mist, but it slunk. It didn't float.
Had like a thickness to it.
Yeah, it looked visceral. And again, it wasn't like I literally saw a black cloud floating, but it was more, it was slightly transparent, but I that one I physically saw going through cubicles and stuff. And I'm like, there is something fucked up going on around here. And she and I used to have conversations about it, and it got sent at me, and I lost my job like a week or two later.
So what do you mean when you said like someone actually like purposefully conjured a golem to get you fired from a job?
It wasn't, I don't think, for me. It was just somebody being a shit who conjured this and sent it to whoever, like, it can check things out. Because what I hear, I've never done this because I'm not into black magic, but what I hear, what I understand, if this is true, they can go out and report back. And whether they use words or visions or oracle, I don't know. I've never done it, like I said, but I hear they report back. They're like spies. And if you send it to someone, they will just cause negative energy and negative things around you to the point where people stop liking you. You don't know why. Nothing works out for you. Anytime you try to do something, it just backfires. Like, things just quit happening in a good way for you. And then if they want you gone, you can be gone. And I had no idea how to deal with it. I was very young in studying all this at the time. So I was just like, well, I'm gone. That's fine. Because that whole place it was a great job, but I was sick the whole year because all those ladies I worked with had small kids, and I have no resistance to small kid germs. So I was like sick the whole year. And so when I got fired, I'm like, oh, thank God, maybe I could have 2 weeks without having a cold. That'd be amazing.
Oh, man,
that's a sidestep. But anyway.
See, I feel like this is why, like, I've always kind of been curious about like the more witchy stuff, but I've never actually gotten involved with it because like it scares me for some reason. And I feel like I would like, I don't know, like the stuff that you see and they get involved with, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go anywhere near that. It sounds frightening.
Well, here's the thing. It's already around you.
Yeah, but I don't know about it.
But when you go, why is this happening? Why is this happening? It could be there's something going on. And the thing to learn is know your enemies and know how to protect yourself. And that's what's really important. So, I mean, don't be afraid. If you're afraid, they can chew on that. They can use that. So, I mean, it's more I was, when it first started happening to me too, that's one of the reasons I got into studying higher magic, earthly magic, and paganism, was because I was having so many visitations when I was a little fledgling of 22 years old in my first apartment. I had all kinds of shit happening in that place. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, I better learn how to protect myself, and I need to know what I'm protecting myself from. You know? So yeah, it's beneficial.
Man. Well, Casmar sends in his super chat. It actually says, can you protect yourself? Thoughts on repelling like spells? Thoughts
As
on repelling
into
spells?
repel a spell aimed at you? Yeah, there's
or like a golem. If someone sends a golem after you, what do you do?
I know what to do now, but I mean, then I was clueless. Well, for she's asking about spells. So if someone is sending a spell at you, you're dealing with a dark witch, and that's a very uncomfortable thing. And it helps if you know who it is. It helps if you don't. There are rituals and spells that you can do to protect yourself. There's one called the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentacle, which is a way to send basically a blue pentacle whatever direction the negativity is coming at. There are ways to clear, cleanse, and protect your house so it doesn't follow you home. You can do it to your car. You can do it to your being too, and there's shielding as well. If there's stuff happening in it depends where it is too. Where is it happening? Is it because someone around you is having that negativity and you're just attached to that person in some way? So maybe they're the one that needs to clear it, but all you need is a shield. So you can bring ick home. You know how that goes. We talked about that last week.
Yes, we did. Lizard says, I recommend Thomas Sheridan for paganism. Do you know who that is?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I don't know who that is either.
But there's so many people out there, but I mean, that's a name of note we can certainly look into.
Definitely. All right, let's go through some of the different types of visitations that you've had, because you have a lot more interesting stories than I do. So we talked about golems. Let's go back to the interdimensional creature, like separate from like the Bigfoot stuff. Like, what is that? What is that?
Oh, and they do say that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being. That's why he disappears so quickly, and the footsteps just end.
See, so I just don't even know why people are confused about this. Like, obviously, Bigfoot is an interdimensional being. Yeah, like mystery solved.
All spirits in some way can be described as interdimensional because they're not fully rooted in the physical plane. So you do have things that are kind of flying around. Is it interdimensional like a Pleiadian coming through space-time to talk to you? Is, again, different levels of people or creatures or beings living on different planes completely that have come over, and maybe the veil is thin and we can see them in our realm, in our dimension. Most of the stuff that I've seen I saw a fully formed vortex once. I've seen shadow people. Now, shadow people are considered true interdimensional, and they do look like just a shadow, like a head and shoulders. Very undefined. Usually they just kind of go straight down to the floor. And if you catch sight of them and they know it, they'll either disappear back away or they go into the floor.
Like a shadow person, like you would see in like a haunted like house or something like that, where like I've seen like paranormal investigations where they've gotten like the shadow people on video and then the shadow people just disappear into the floor.
Yeah, they
like
just,
that.
Yeah. They just disappear, and because they can travel real fast, and they usually just come to check you out. From my experience, they don't talk to you. Now, I heard this really interesting story. It was George Norrie one night on Coast to Coast. I love that show. And he had a guy on who was a specialist in this, and he talked about the different kinds of shadow people. In my experience, they're just watchers. They just take notes. They don't get involved. But there apparently are some that are very malevolent that can open evil gateways. If you ever see one that has red eyes, you need to be super careful. There's also some shadow people that seem to wear hats. I don't know why that seems to be its own breed of shadow person. And it reminds me of Dark City, honestly. That movie, Dark City.
I love that movie. That's a great movie. So it's interesting that you mentioned the red eyes thing, because actually one of the most pronounced things that like has ever happened to me involves something with red eyes.
Ooh.
Which is, so I was dating this guy that I almost married, and thank God I didn't, because it would have been a horrible, horrible, horrible mistake. But he was like I talked a little bit about him last week. He was always like messing around with like more dark things, and I don't think he was ever like really kind of like into it like you are, but he definitely like messed around with it when he was younger. And I don't know exactly what happened, but he told me one time that like he had things sometimes following him. And I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
really believe it, because I had like I was like I started dating him when I was going into my senior year in college. And so I was like really young. I was like 21 or something like that. And so I was over at his house one time, and there was a field that we were walking in that was like near his house, and we were just like messing around, whatever, walking in the woods. And I thought like, so I'm pretty clumsy in general. Like, oh, like I'm one of those people, like I will literally trip over nothing. And just like, and I like, that's how I broke my foot one time. I tripped over nothing and I broke my foot, and just, whatever. But like this was one of those times where like I tripped it like walking through the field, but it wasn't like I didn't trip over anything, but it felt like I got pushed. But then I kind of
Oh.
like I psyched myself out, and I was like, oh, I'm just being clumsy, right? But I was like, I swear to, I felt like something like pushed me, right? And so we go back to his house, and like, my ankle is like all, swollen up or anything. And like, I just ended up laying in bed for the rest of the day. And then we went to bed that night. And so I woke up in the middle of the night, and I swear to God, and I knew I was not dreaming. I saw something sitting on the edge of his bed, and it was like it looked kind of like a very skeletal like thing with red eyes, like really, really thin, and just like had blackness around it. And it turned, and it was like looking straight at me, and it turned and it pointed at him. And I was like, oh shit. And I just like
Ooh.
rolled over and put my arm around him. I was like, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. And that scared the ever loving F out of me. What was that?
That was not a nice
No,
being. That is a
no.
very nasty being. Those things can fuck you up. They will get in if it attaches to you, and if it decides. Sometimes they can lead to a possession. From what I understand, I'm sure there's people out there with better and more knowledge than me. I'm not claiming to be an expert by any means, but from what I understand, they can really fuck you up. You will be covered in negative energy if it decides to truly attach to you, maybe even possess you. And I don't mean like by puppeteering you, I mean by just getting inside you and being with you. It can cause a lot of mental illness. It can cause dietary problems, health issues, drug addiction, alcoholism, like all because it wants to experiment. It wants to experience the physical realm. So that's what a lot of possession is about. Is they want the experiences that we get by inhabiting a physical body. But they can be really nasty, and they can fuck you up, and to get them off is hard because they're pretty powerful. Those are some strong entities.
Yeah, that was terrifying. And I got to tell you, like, I kind of, even after we broke up, we like, I think we were together for maybe a couple more years after that, but like even after we broke up, like I would kind of like keep tabs on his social media, as people on the internet do, and I would just watch his physical appearance go down, down, down. And like when I say it went down, it was like it got darker and creepier and darker and creepier, and he got really into like just very, I mean, we're like, one of the reasons I liked him is we were both into like haunted things. We liked, kind of like that horror genre. Like he was very into like, all those like Italian horror movies and like this death metal music and all that. But it was just like his appearance just became ghoul like
Yeah.
after a while. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
that sounds about right. It does indeed.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
They're very evil beings.
So I narrowly escaped the red-eyed being.
It didn't want you, or at least you got away before it decided it wanted you. It had to start with somebody. So yeah, that's not good. That's not good. But
so we don't like red-eyed things. What other types of visitations might we have?
There was one I saw. I actually bought a book because of this one. It's called the Something of Monsters. I've got it somewhere. It talks about all different kinds of monsters, spiritual monsters. And I got one because I was dating this guy, and he was very skinny. He didn't have much of an appetite. He didn't seem totally like he had a hard time focusing. Sometimes he lost interest in a lot of stuff, and he just seemed tired and drained all the time, but he slept constantly. So, I mean, now that could be a physical problem. I'm not saying everything has a spiritual origin, but a few nights, probably more than 3, I woke up and would see this black, like, cloud sort of just hovering next to him over top. And it looked like it was siphoning. And I went, okay. And it was like more than one occurrence. I felt like something had just left. Like I just missed it. And then there were times when I kind of saw this shadow just hanging out in a corner. And it didn't look like the shadow you would see in a corner, because that's normally kind of a straight line. Walls are flat. But this was like a blob in the corner that shouldn't be there, a mist of some kind. And I was like, okay, his house always creeped me out. He wouldn't let me clear it, though, for some reason. So then a couple times I saw it over him. And this one time I just watched it. Like it was there. I don't know if it was aware that I was awake and watching it. I'm guessing not, because it didn't flee. And I was like, that's a vampire. I need to find out what the actual fuck is going on. So that's why I bought this book and I started looking up energy vampires. And while we call certain people energy vampires, there are also literally energy vampires out there. They're entities that suck the life energy out of you. They live on fear, and they also keep you very emaciated. Essentially, you're tired all the time. You don't have much of an appetite. It just they suck the life force out of you. And I begged him, let me clear and salt your house. You've got to do something. It's like he didn't believe me. And his life kind of kept doing this down and down and down. Like he couldn't find joy. And to my knowledge, he didn't get really healthy again until after he left that place. Then he started doing a lot better.
So it was actually like more attached to like where he was living, and he just happened to be there.
I think it was just feeding off of whoever was around, and it had its territory maybe. And he was just happened to be there, and he was open to it. And so it latched onto him.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Spooky.
Bosephus says, if I don't bathe, will they leave me alone?
No.
Doesn't.
They're not interested in your body odor or lack thereof.
Man.
They want tasty vibes.
So, I mean, when you say like, so you could see these things, like what, like, I mean, like, so is it something that like why can you see these things and other people can't see these things?
It's just the size of your antenna. And some people see them all the time. They just ignore it. They go, oh, that was nothing. And they don't look. They might see it and go, oh, I saw a flash, or something darting. People see shit darting through their houses all the time, and they just don't think anything of it, and sometimes it is nothing. But when it's learning, getting that discernment of when to pay attention to something and when it is just a visual anomaly that you're having. But I mean, some people can't see anything. Some people see them clear as day. I had a friend who saw ghosts like as if they were regular people. And I don't have that ability at all. I can more sense them. Sometimes I can get an impression of what they look at, but I don't see them. But she had a big antenna for that. Well, remember in The Shining, that's what he was talking about. Bigger antenna. That's what he's talking about. It's all that in that vibe. And sometimes we're more audio. Sometimes it's visual. Sometimes it's a bit of both. So it depends on just what your natural ability is. I mean, why is somebody better at playing the piano and somebody is better at, drawing? It's just something that's part of you. You can teach it, though. You can learn it. You just have to dedicate.
How do you learn it?
Study. It does help to do some meditations. You need to open up that third eye chakra a lot. And you want to, if you can find a teacher, that's great. But there's a lot of like meditation is really the best tool to kind of begin to open your awareness. But trust me, if you do this, you're going to start getting visitations.
No, that's true though. That's true. And like,
it will check you out.
So that's actually how, like, let's talk about like a nicer energy, or what I think is a nicer energy. Angels. I love angels. Yay. Angels are cool.
Yes.
And actually, so when I first started getting into meditation, you do these things where you do all these different guided meditations, because there are a million different guided meditations you can find online. And so I was trying all this stuff, and I eventually found this one woman in the UK who she and her husband, before he passed away, used to do these angel meditations. So you can still find them like all over Spotify. Her name is Jill Harrison, and she has like all these different meditations with all the different angels, and like all like, you know, Archangel Metatron or Michael or Gabriel or Raphael or like, you know, Mary, or like the Christ consciousness meditations that I really like. She did those. She's got a massive catalog. And so these were the first meditations that like I kind of just like really responded to these. And I was like, and I had never really thought about angels before. Like I knew what they were, but I had never really like interacted with them. And then I used to do these meditations like every single day. And I took classes with her and stuff like that to like practice with the different energies. And how it kind of came through to me is so like if I'm thinking about like a specific angel, like I can feel it in different parts of my body. Like if I'm like, you know, thinking about like Archangel Michael, like very strong, like the right side of my body, it feels like it puts his like hand on the right side of my my right shoulder or something. Is there's this one archangel called Sandolphin who, you know, helps you like manifest things and stuff like that. I feel that in the center of my back. And so that's kind of like how I know like what things are around. Is I feel them in different parts of my body. And I found the same thing with like human beings. Like if I'm trying to figure out what someone is doing and I tune into their energy, I feel it in certain parts of like every single person I feel in a distinct way in different parts of my body. Am I crazy?
Like, no. That's very interesting. I don't think you're crazy at all. It's just a matter of how energy is communicating to you and how that person influences you and what part they get you in. You know, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So what do you think about angels? What experience do you have with them?
I have had some interesting experiences with angels, especially when I was a child. I was a little accident prone. And when there was one, I don't remember this, but I was a toddler, and the place that with the church that I used to go in, and we actually rented the old Phipps Auditorium, which is now the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And it had a big sloping big auditorium, had sloping pathways between the seats. Or aisles, I should say. That's the word. And I guess I fell and I began to roll down, and I was rolling straight towards, they had these metal bases on the chairs, and I was like rolling straight towards a metal base. And the ladies were kind of trying to catch me, because I'm going, and they're trying to get me before I hit my head on this metal chair. And they said that they saw me pivot, like boom, and roll the other way. And stop. And they went right before she hit that chair. It's like her body just twisted, twirled, and rolled the other way. And told my mom about it. Because remember, I'm the pass around pack. So my parents would like drop me off with someone, and then I would just go around. The people would just pass me around at church because I was such a friendly baby. And so they totally found my mother. They're like, your daughter just almost died on this, you know, rolling into a chair. There was one time when I was on my bicycle. I was about 7 years old, and these two kids on a motorized like dirt bike thought that they were going to be funny and chase me and try and scare me. And we lived, it wasn't a cul-de-sac, but the street ended. It just ended. And there was like a fence and a field on the other side. So I'm going towards that, and they're coming up at me, and I'm just like, maybe they'll go away. I didn't know what to do. Their front tire hit my back tire and spun me out. And I went flying into the air with my bike, fell two different directions. I fell butt first, tailbone first on the concrete, I probably went up in the air 6 or 7 feet, because the velocity of it, and I just went boom, and I didn't feel a thing. It was like it almost like the world practically bowed, like boing. That's what it felt like. And it almost, if I'm remembering, I can say, yeah, I saw in my visual field the world bend, but I'm sure that's just memory and me being imaginative. But that's how it felt, just like landing on a trampoline kind of a thing. And then I just stopped, and I had no injuries at all. I should have broken my ass, but those kids,
you should have.
Yes, those kids hightailed it out. And I just kind of got up, and I was shaking because it scared the crap out of me. And I walked my bike back, and oh man, my grandmother was visiting that summer, and she went up and down banging on doors. Do you have two little boys with this kind of bike? They were not from our street. We could never find them. Wow. But yeah, so that was like one of the things. There's been other times when, you know, you can feel you've just been protected from something, like you had a near miss. And yeah, and I my angels were very busy with me when I was younger.
Yeah. And we all have angels. We all have,
Yes.
I mean, the guardian angels are like a real thing.
Yeah, I believe
Right?
so. My mom gave me a medallion of, I think it's Uriel, who is the guardian of children born on Saturday, which I was.
Say the name again?
I think it's Uriel.
Huh.
No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Uriel's of the West. Cassiel. That's who it is.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
Cassiel, the guardian of children born on Saturday.
Uriel sounds actually very familiar to me, and I'm not placing why, but that specific angel name sounds very familiar.
When you call an angel circle, he's the guardian of the West, I believe. I might have to blow the dust off my brain cells there, but yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And like I like what I think is cool about angels is like you can ask them for help with like anything. Literally, yeah. like that's like they're like, okay, so my understanding of like angelic energy, and like tell me if I'm getting any of this wrong, because you probably know it way better than I do. But it's like this is an energy that has never incarnated as a human being.
Correct.
It's like it's energy that's like they are there to help us, they are there to serve us. They want to help us, they want to serve us, but they need like permission sometimes to like help and serve us. So if like we don't want the help, like the angels won't help you. But like if you ask them for help in anything, like they want to give that help.
They will automatically give help unless they are banished.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, like for instance, your friend with the creepy thing with the red eyes.
Yep.
Angels aren't going to be there unless they're requested.
Yeah.
Because they have been told they are unwelcome. And that isn't a literal thing. He didn't say, I don't want any angels. He said, I welcome this, not that. And so by welcoming that, they went, and that means you don't want us. So they peaced out.
Yeah. But they'll come back if he asks.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Angels are pure spirits that have not incarnated in any kind of life form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one of the most helpful angels for people to use is Archangel Michael, because he will protect you. Like I can't, like I've like anytime I've been in a city, like walking by myself at night, I'm like asking Archangel Michael for help and stuff like that. And I don't know. Do you have
Gabriel's
any
another one.
Yeah.
I vibe with Gabriel. I like him. He's cool. I dig Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course my husband's name is Michael. So that makes me happy.
Wow.
That's why he was named, is for the Archangel. So, but
what do you, go ahead.
No, I was just, no, go ahead. I'm done.
What do you know about Metatron?
I don't know anything about Metatron. I have looked into some of it. It's been a few years. The readings of, I would caution people that people who interpret angels like Metatron and other super beings to be very careful of the messenger, and not always, because sometimes they get a little culty.
Yes.
And they start interpreting it, and they start thinking, I now know the mind of this being, and now they are inserting their own stuff. So be super careful. There was one guy that I really dug, and he used to kind of convey messages from this hive mind entity. And I think if anybody's familiar with the law of one, it's those entities. And they seem cool, they seem harmless, totally fine, but like sometimes the mouthpiece starts to be a little more mouthy than being more of a translator or a piece, if you will. And I noticed he started saying, well, you have to do this or that won't happen, or you have to do this. And once they start laying out ground rules, I start going, oh, that contradicts the law of infinity, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, we should explain that to people. So I guess how I would explain it is like all of this is available to anyone. It's like you don't need special powers to be able to do this. You aren't like if you're talking to someone who's like teaching you about this stuff, like you know, they're not the exclusive purveyors of this information. It might just be someone that resonates with you as a teacher, which is fine, well and good, and you should find people that you resonate with to learn from. But it's not like you can go to someone else and get this information, or you can learn it on your own. It's not, there's not any secret, there's not hidden Gnostic knowledge, as it were. It's available to all of us, right?
It is. Well, it's called the occult because it used to be hidden. But it's, I mean, and it kind of still is in terms of it's not generally accepted. It's because Abrahamic religions took over. So that's the real accepted thing. If you're not vibing with that and you start talking a little bit more of the woo and into the more occult knowledge, then people begin to get a little skeptical and fearful of you, because it's been given this reputation of being evil, which it is not.
No.
you know. Well, some of it might be, but again, knowledge is just neutral. It's just knowledge. The knowledge can't hurt you. It's what you do with it, or what maybe you draw into your awareness because of it. And it is everywhere. We have books. Oh my God. I worked at a metaphysical bookstore for a while, and I spent most of my paycheck on tarot cards, crystals, oils, incense, and books. I accumulated a whole library of different, because just whatever caught my fancy, because I was voracious. I wanted to read everything. And boy, did I. All kinds of, and then there, of course, there's, you know, now we've got the entire knowledge of everything on the internet. I mean, the first time I knew the Dead Sea Scrolls were available, that's one of the first things I looked up on AOL.
Man. So what else do I want to say about angels? Let's see. I had something I wanted to say about this. Oh, so this was also when I started getting into like angel meditations. This is also like, I don't have, like, my clairaudience is not like, it's kicked on like a couple times, and then I feel like I get scared of it. And so I definitely, like, it kicked on for me one time when I was doing like an angel meditation with what was it? He was Merlin, but that's not his name. I forget it. It's anyway, like, I forget the name of the angel specifically, but it was like Merlin, and like the incarnation. Like, well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. But like, so when it happened, when I was in this meditation, it sounded like a radio was like tuning in my head, like it was going through like the channels on the radio, and then I got scared of it and it went away.
Yeah.
So
you're probably tuning into the stream of collective unconscious. Yeah. That's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like just like a bunch of different voices talking. Not so much static, but just chatter. Yeah. And it's whispery chatter. And the more you tune into it, the clearer it becomes. And sometimes you can single out certain voices or conversations. I started meditating into that a little bit, and then I just lost interest because I got distracted by something else, because I was just learning so much at once, and I was working on other stuff. So, but yeah, it's a lot like that. And what can be confusing for people is, I think a lot of people say, I heard the voices of hell, or I'm hearing the voices of the angels. It's whatever you think. Yeah. It doesn't make it true, but like, people don't know, they can't interpret it because they're not trained. They don't know what to call it. But that's just the collective unconsciousness. And that's chatter from angels and spirits and spirit guides. And that's what you sort through when I do let me try and say that in English. When I do intuitive readings, that's the chatter I sort through to find the clear message from your guides to my guides, so I can get that interpretation. Because I do a lot of tarot, but I don't do like how you and Joshua, where you learn what each card meant. I just do the intuitive stuff. So that's how I get the messages, is by sorting through some of that chatter.
Well, that's, I think, how Joshua does it too. Like, he hears voices in his head and he gets messages and things, and then he uses
very clear with his spirit guides. His spirit guides are like very, very clear for him. Mine are a little fuzzy these days. We don't talk so much anymore. We should talk. We get some beer or something.
See, I kind of thought that would be a cool thing to develop, but like, when it actually started happening, and again, like, I started tuning into it, I kind of freaked out about it. I was like, I'm hearing voices in my head. What the hell is going on?
It's a little freaky. But I mean, when you get used to it, it's not as frightening anymore. It's like any other thing that you learn to do. You might be a little scared at first, but then it just becomes routine. And you realize sometimes it's always there in the background. If you're really tuned in, it's kind of always present. You can tune in and out. But it's also learning how to control your dial so that you're not always tuned in, and you only tune in when you want to. And then tuning into certain voices like your spirit guides, they're always around. They're always, ready to talk if you want to talk. And just listening and receiving those messages is really beautiful when you can foster that.
How do you develop that?
Again, just by listening and trusting. And I heard things throughout my life, but I thought it was like the voice of God when I was growing up, or it was maybe not God, because they told us you can't understand or hear the voice of God. It's too overwhelming. It's probably the word, or it's an angel, or it's a demon, and you shouldn't listen at all. And they tried to scare us. But when I started to tune in, I had a friend who kind of coached me with it, and it was very comforting. And she was like, don't be afraid. When you start hearing the stream of consciousness, just listen. You don't have to go into it. You don't have to disappear into it. Just listen and accept them. If you get words, write a word down. If you hear a phrase, write a phrase down, and just start kind of fine-tuning yourself that way. Or talk back and see if there's a response.
So that would make me feel like I was going crazy.
Sometimes you wonder. You do. I'm not going to lie. You do wonder. But I think if it's someone who's guiding you on your life, they're not going to tell you to go do something nuts. They're not going to tell you to self-harm. If you hear anything about harming yourself, a creature, or a person, that's the wrong voice. They will never do that. They always talk to you about you and your life. So yeah, I had let's see. Well, there's possessions too. We could talk about. We talk about the time I saw a gargoyle in my dining room, or what other topics strike your fancy?
Well, let's talk about that. Actually, my husband texted me from the downstairs, and he reminded me of like the haunted museum that we went to in Las Vegas, which is like the ghost hunter guy like basically took his most haunted artifacts and he put them all in this one building. So of course we had to go. And so there's this one like doll
Abigail.
that is like, yeah, it's like Abigail, but it's not like it's like it's you know a different doll, obviously.
Okay.
But like basically, when you go to this haunted museum, it's in like this house that they got and they converted it into a museum, and you basically have to wait outside for a while you're like your tour group's going in, and so they have videos playing talking about all the exhibits. And one of the things it was talking about was this haunted doll, and it was like, don't look this doll in the eye. It was like gave you the list of like, this is a very haunted doll. This is serious. Do not mess around with this. So of course, what do? I go into the room with the doll. I stand right in front of the doll. I look the doll right in the eye, and I was like, I'm more powerful than you. I'm more powerful. I'm not saying this out loud. I'm saying it in my head. I'm more powerful than you. I'm more powerful than you. And then all of a sudden, like, and I swear to God, like I started getting like really dizzy, and the room started spinning, and then I ran out of the room.
It's like, oh, you think so, bitch?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I challenged the haunted doll, and the doll won. So
I'll teach you.
What was that about?
Oh, I mean, there are malicious entities that attach to objects. They do, and why they do, it's really, I don't know if there's a singular reason for it. Sometimes they do it because the item belonged to somebody else they were attached to. Maybe they belong to the item because they like where like the item gets passed around once it loses. It's like the person who has it, they lose use for it, and the item does, and it moves on to the next person. But that can happen with blessed things as well, blessed artifacts. It's not always something that's possessed. So I'm not sure why they decide to take over inanimate objects. I personally think that sounds like a total drag. But I think one of the things that they enjoy, especially if it's a doll, for instance, is because children play and talk to dolls as if they are real. So the entity gets to be treated like a person. It gets to have tea. It gets to go play outside. It gets to be loved and hugged and all of that kind of thing. So it might attach to that to get that energy from the children.
Fascinating. So would you consider the doll then to be like possessed?
I suppose you could say that. Yeah. I would.
So what other, like you said you've been involved, you've been around people who are possessed. What is that like? What's going on there?
So I had a guy I was dating who had crystal blue eyes that went totally black. And he had many moments where he was not himself. It's very interesting when a possession takes the front. It's like, imagine different personalities. So I mean, was he schizophrenic? Could been. I don't know. Did he have dissociative person disorder? Maybe. He was not diagnosed with any of those things, and he never acted like any other personality but himself, except a couple of times. So that leans me in the possession category. And he had a lot of bad shit hovering around him too. But he was convinced that he was protected by God and by angels, and that just couldn't be happening. So he deceived himself into thinking he was safe. But there were times when he was very violent. And some of that was him, and some of that was not him. And you can see it when it takes over. The face literally changes. The muscular expression changes into something completely different. And I don't mean like they look like a different person, literally. It's just it's, all right, if I act it out, I mean, it's, that, okay, so think of in The Exorcist when all of a sudden she's like, and you're like, oh, that's wrong. That's what I mean. It's not their normal face anymore. And the voice usually changes. It pitches up or down. this speaking rhythm that people normally, we all develop our own kind of speaking rhythm. That changes. Like, it is not them talking or looking at you. And sometimes they might develop a different body motion. So like with him, he would do this to me.
Oh
And
God, that's so creepy.
It was very creepy. I talked, so, and he started talking about realms and how he was a, he was like, I don't want to say like a lieutenant, but it was something like that. Like he had rank in the demonic realm, and he was trying to brag about it to me, and how dare I question him, kind of a thing. And
how do you even have a conversation with someone about that?
Well, we were stranded on the side of the road at night, and
that makes it so much better, Jennifire.
It was terrifying. Well, he pulled over. I was stranded. He pulled the car over, took me out of the car by the side of the road, and started to lecture me. And all of a sudden, he stopped and he went, and then he started, and he changed. Everything changed, and I was like, oh shit. And he started talking to me, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm sure you're very powerful, and that's cool. And is there anything I can help you with? Because I'm pretty sure I'm useless to you. And he's like, don't mess with me and don't mess with him. And he was talking about who he was in, my boyfriend. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, whatever, and I just kind of deflected. I hadn't truly developed my shielding technique yet. But this is one of the reasons why I became a very good shielder. And he finally relaxed. And I just said, just take me home. I'll leave you alone. You can do whatever you want. Just take me home. And all of a sudden he just slumped. And he went and he got in his car and he let me get in the car. And I was like, are you okay? And he looked at me. He's like, what? Why did we stop? Like, he totally didn't know what was happening.
Wow.
Why are we pulled over? And I said, you pulled us over. He's like, no, I didn't. And then he argued with me about, I'm like, you're behind the wheel. I literally couldn't have done it. So yeah, we had an argument about that.
Crazy. Yeah. How do you think he got possessed?
Because he welcomed it. He had a complex, a superiority complex, and he welcomed the power, and he welcomed. And the thing about evil things is they feel really powerful because that's part of their lure is I can give you this like that. And they good wants you to kind of earn it and let you develop your own. Whereas evil's like, let me help you, because evil wants you too. And so, but he was open to it. And he also had a bit of a weak mind. He wasn't totally right. But there was another guy who was the boyfriend of one of my best friends who was in my coven at the time. And I saw him change into, and I'm sure there had to be 3 in there that weren't, they were a form of demon called an imp. And they're very random. They're very chaotic. They have a totally different vibe. Demons feel very calm because they're very powerful, usually. And I'm not saying that's the rule. Everything is individual, but these things were just like chaotic. Like I could feel them crawling through him. And at one point he was talking to me, and we had finished doing I think it was a Beltane ritual. And all of a sudden, we're sitting on the floor and he and I are having a beer together. And all of a sudden he stopped and he looked at me like this. He started doing this. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, we know who you are. And I was like, oh, shield. And because I had developed it by that time, and I just shot white loving light at him, and he went like this, and he goes, we know where you are. We know who you are. We've seen you before. And I said, you little assholes, you get out of my friend's man. You leave me alone. Don't you fucking come at me. And because that was, again, this is, 20 years later, so I grew a little bit. But yeah, they were just trying, and they said, you leave us alone, because she wanted me to exorcise him. And he would not allow it. Well, he wanted me to do it, but he wouldn't allow my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, because my husband is my guardian now. And he will not let anybody fuck with me. And these little things thought they could come at me, but they didn't want him there backing me up. So they wouldn't allow him into the house. And my husband said, if I'm not welcome in there, neither are you. I said, fine by me. I don't need to step my foot in that shit. And they had portals open all over the house. And I told her exactly where they were. She's like, that's what I thought. And he would go to these places and he would draw shit on the wall that they like hieroglyphs and symbols that she couldn't understand. I said, will you quit it? Get out of there. What are you doing?
That's crazy. She wouldn't leave the guy. That's nuts.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's good is she did work it out, as far as I know. She worked it out, and they have moved, and they have gotten married, and they're having a really good life together. So somehow she got rid of them. He got because the choice has to also come from here too. You have to choose to push that out, but you have to acknowledge it's there in the first place. And a lot of people don't want to admit that they've got that.
Man, how can you tell when I mean, obviously you've given us like a couple stories of like people that you knew directly, but can you tell if someone has this stuff going on that you like just met or encountered or stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say, oh yeah, I got that. Like I don't want to come off that way, but the first thing that happens is I get a vibe, like something's off. There's something not normal happening here. And you can kind of tell just how they act, how they talk, if they're flipping between things sometimes. And that's the thing, is like, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know if maybe they're just having a mental episode. Maybe they really do have more than one personality in there. I happen to think that a lot of times people who have multiple personalities or have a lot of mental issues, they might have some spirits toying with them. And so we don't have a scientific word for it, because that doesn't exist in regular science.
No.
So we can't have that. So now we have to tell them they've just created all these schisms. While that can still be possible, I'm not poo-pooing science. It's also possible that they've got some spirits hanging out in there, coming in and out. But you can kind of tell. And if I decide to tune in, I can usually tell there's something bad or creepy. And that's about as far as I want to go, because I don't need to like tap them on the shoulder, so to speak. I don't want to draw attention. And if you start really tuning in and focusing on that spirit, you will draw their attention. I don't need that. Yeah. It's enough for me to go, something's not right with you, and I can feel maybe 2 or 3 things going on in there. So I'm just going to send my focus over there, and we're not going to not deal with you.
See, I don't know if I'd be able to resist the temptation to do it. Because like I always want to figure this stuff out. I'm like, well, that's like okay, that's like true, like 50, like I don't know, maybe 50% of the time. There are lots of times, just because I'm exposed to like so many people in the world, that like for the longest time I would like block people, and I know like the internet's a different thing, but like I would block people on the internet purely based on no, bad energy, bad, no, yeah. Don't want it, don't want it. And it was something that if I did that, it was so clear to me. I was like, this is not energy I need in my life. Go away. I'm sure you're a very nice person, but no, you need to go somewhere else. I don't want this around me. But then there are other times when like, I mean, I've known people that like, I don't know how to quantify it other than to say, they had like I told you, like I can tune into when I tune into someone's energy, like I feel it in a certain part of my body, right? And it's very, very, very consistent, and it's always like specific to the person and like whatever. But like there are some people where if I do this, there'll be times when they have one personality and their energy feels one way, and then there'll be times when it's a completely different goddamn personality and their energy feels completely and totally different. Yeah. And usually it's the case that like I like one of their energies, and that's why I might be like around them. And then once the other energy comes around, I'm like, nope, don't like this, go away. Yeah. Like, is that real, or am I making that up?
No, you're completely right. I have a family member that had 2 entities playing with him. One was very evil and violent and abusive, and one was very sweet and affectionate and weepy. And then there was him. And we didn't see him himself very often, because he was an alcoholic. So that's another thing, is people who do a lot of drugs and alcohol, it opens you up for a lot of transient stuff. And these 2 latched onto him. And if you sense that flip in somebody, it's valid. Like, trust your shit, trust your feelings. It's not a joke. I mean, especially once you learn that this is a thing. To ignore it is dumb and is folly, in my opinion. There's a lot of people who go, I don't want to be involved, so therefore I'm not. And it's like, yeah, but you are. It's there. Just because you can't see the wind doesn't mean it's not blowing your way. So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, there's going to be a shift. There can be different kinds. And I mean, the person that I'm mentioning was getting ready to move to a different state, and the sweet weepy spirit wanted to stay with me. And it used to visit me all the time in my apartment, and it would hover over my bed and just like please, you know, and it would stand in my hallway and just please, and I would feel it meandering through the place, and I'm like, listen, you cannot stay with me. And I had to banish it. I had to tell it to go. Like, listen, you don't have to stay with that guy. You can go wherever you want. You can find the light. Go find the light. But you can't stay with me. I cannot be your host, and I'm not your friend. And it kind of broke my heart because it was so full of sadness. But I mean, I just can't let that happen. And anyway, did I answer your question? I feel like I went on a tangent there.
No, it's okay. You kind of like answered it in a roundabout way, just in terms of like confirmation that like this is actually like a real thing. Like there's this one like case that like I like, God, again, and it's hard for me to quantify it because I don't feel this stuff as strongly as you do. I just get like very strong instincts about like some things sometimes. And there's this one person that I knew that like there were like three kind of like different parts of this person. It was like the kind of just like normal part that I was like the kind of like the like I'll call it like the face of this person that like I interacted with when I was first getting to know them and stuff like that. And then there was this this part that was just like, I mean, this person was like a very, very open. They're very empathic. And like, there was this very, very sweet energy that came through that like, they could read my energy like that. And it was actually uncanny. Like there, and when I was talking to this person, it was or this energy rather, it was like their whole demeanor changed, their voice changed, how they spoke to me changed. And it was like, they were like, you're thinking this, and this. And it was like, every time they did it, it was like, it was such a precise description of like a very nuanced thing that I was thinking that like, it's not something that like normal people could like, I mean, I guess anyone can do this, but like, it's not something that like normal people would pick up on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Be like, yeah, that's actually a scary, accurate description of like what I'm thinking right now. So I had this like, and I really liked that one. I was like, man, this is actually kind of like crazy to be able to talk to this. Cause it was just like, they understood like my perspectives on things that a lot of people didn't understand. And then on the other side is this like angry, but also very kind of like childish, like angry kind of schoolyard bully is like the best I can describe it. And it was like, and then and the more kind of like that I interacted with this person, I started seeing that more. And I was like, no, I don't like this. I want the nice one. Like, yeah. Bring the nice one back. I like the nice one. Yeah. But no, I got the child, and I was like, oh, this isn't cool, man.
Yeah. For people who say aren't of woo, I'm trying to say this like instead of saying pagan, because just because you're not pagan doesn't mean you aren't of woo. There are a lot of Christians who have there's a lot of Christian magic and things out there that's very cool. But people who are in tune can usually, like, you can tell, you can see that switch, you can feel like something's off. If you aren't, what you're going to observe is just erratic behavior that is inconsistent. Mm-hmm. And you're just not going to understand it, and you just won't like them. You know, for whatever, unless you're into that, then you'll be like, I don't know why I like you, kind of crazy. So
it's like being in an abusive relationship, honestly. Yeah. It really is. And it's not any shade on like the person, because I mean, I don't think that they're necessarily aware of all this, but it's like, it's very distinctive, and it's discombobulating when you first start interacting with it. You're like, what is going on? Yeah. Like, this makes no sense at all.
Yeah. Am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Always trust your gut. Always in all things, trust your gut. It's either a message from your spirit guides, your angels, God, whoever you trust it. If it says get out, get the hell out or get away or whatever.
Man. So have you been involved in like exorcisms and stuff?
I have not of a person, but of a home. I have done clearings. Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean?
So if you have transient spirits that are hanging out and you want to get rid of them, you have to clear the premises. You have to clear the energy. You have to tell the spirits to leave. You have to close portals. You have to close any gateways that are open. And then you have to seal the borders, protect it, shield it, and fill it with new energy, fresh energy. That's what a lot of people forget when I'll just sage. Yeah, that's great. I mean, once you can sage something, it's just like getting a clean bowl of water, but you could dip a dirty shoe in there and the water's dirty. And okay, well, let me just get some clean water. And then you just dip another dirty shoe in there. Like, it can keep getting dirty. To help maintain it, you want to seal it and fill it with new energy. And I have done that where I've asked transient spirits to leave. You're not welcome here. Most oblige without a problem. I had a friend who had me come do a reading on their house, and the basement had 2 portals, one really big one in the laundry room and one kind of smaller one in a closet that were right across from each other. And it felt like a spiritual highway. Like shit was just zooming through, and it would come and check out their stuff, and then it would go back. It was great. It was like an intersection of the spirit realm. It was so busy. And they had problems with whenever they had roommates that were in the basement bedroom would start going crazy because there was another portal opening in that closet. But these spirits were coming in and out, and they would go fuck with the people in the basement. And I'm just like, close the portals. And like, well, would you do that? I'm like, yeah, let me know. We have to get some things prepared, but yeah, we can do that. And she never called me back. And now I understand that she and her husband got divorced and are no longer there. And just like their whole lives fell apart.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying it's a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. Doesn't mean that that's what caused it. But when you don't take care and clean your house, and that also means your physical being house, things can fall apart.
Man, I'm starting to get self-conscious now. I'm like, I feel like I've been neglecting a lot of the spiritual stuff. I'm like, are there any portals in my house? Is there stuff? I know I need to clean the crystals on my desk. Like, is there anything else that am I possessed right now, Jennifire? People on the internet would say I'm possessed and crazy.
No,
I'm not possessed.
You're too strong of a being. I think if something started to mess with you, you'd be like, ugh.
Yeah, basically, get the fuck out, go away. Yeah. Like, no. Yeah. Exactly. So is that basically what you have to do when you see have a spirit that you don't want around? You're like, no, go away. Or like, you can go like, I don't hate you, but you can't stay here. Go somewhere else.
You are not welcome here. You are not welcome near me, around me, and if you've got friends who kind of have them around, probably it's a good idea not to invite that person into your house. I had one gal who I know was in contact with several spirits, and she became homeless, and I offered for her to stay with me. Before I did, though, I made sure my boundaries were more reinforced, and she kind of walked through my door and she went, oh, I feel so much lighter. I said, that's because I told your babies they have to stay outside. They can't come in here. And a lot of psychics who have been in my house and my previous homes, that they're like, it's so quiet in here. And I go, yeah, because I don't allow that shit in here. There's no spirits. I don't allow ghosts. I don't allow anything in my house unless I invite it. And that's part of the incantation you have to do too, is you have to set that perimeter of permission. And if it may be like spirits of my animals, my passed on animals, my family members, my spirit guides, my angels are all welcome. Anybody else can fuck off. And I don't let that come in. But I love it when people come in and they go, oh, it's so quiet. It's so peaceful. I don't feel anything in here. It's so nice. I just want to sit here and enjoy the silence.
Man, is that kind of like why I once asked Joshua this question too? Because I think one of the reasons I was attracted to Joshua in the first place is because he looked normal on the psychic website. He was like the only psychic on the website that didn't look like crazy. And so I was like, oh, someone normal. Okay. Like that might be like the best choice. And so I once asked him like, why are all psychics crazy essentially? and his answer was like, well, a lot of them actually don't actually take really good care of themselves because they're so kind of like in the spirit world that they're not grounded at all. Yes. But and so is that kind of like what's going on when psychics are crazy?
They get so into, remember, I think we were talking about last week a little bit. I have a hard time with people that get very lightheaded in the woo. They're very airy, and they're so intent on being in the realm that they just have to let you know they're in the realm. They almost force it, and then they don't cleanse, clear, and ground. And there's just constant activity, and they're not themselves. They are the spiritual portal all the time. It's a little too much. It's a little too much.
That was one of the things that Joshua always hammered me on. He's like, Karlyn, you have to ground yourself. You have to ground yourself. And I never wanted to ground myself, especially when I first started learning this stuff. I was like, I don't want to be grounded. That's going to prevent me from being able to do the psychic stuff. He's like, no, ground now. I was like, okay, well now I understand it's a better idea. But at the time, it didn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah, you got to be balanced. You can't just get lost in it. Because you will. You can. It's easy to do, but you have to, it's not, being grounded does not negate the spirit realm. People think, oh, I don't want to be grounded, I'm enjoying the high. You can still have that, and be, the grounding just keeps you protected. Like I always tell people, you're a bead on a thread. So you have a connection below, you have a connection above, and you hover right in the middle.
What other entities are there that we haven't talked? We've talked, and like I feel like we've spanned the gamut. It was like interdimensional beings, golems, vampires. You know?
Well, I haven't touched on the gargoyle one that happened.
Oh yeah, gargoyle.
I was studying spiritual magic. Now I was kind of new. I'm one of those people that I'm one of those, why not? Like, are they real? Why not? Is this real? Is that real? Why not? You know, why isn't anything real? Of course, I mean, some ideas are based in reality in some way, on some level. And I feel like maybe we lack the proper language for it. But I also thought that maybe some of it was real at one period of time, and maybe they're extinct, or like, who knows? But
is it one of those things? Sorry, is it one of those things that like you can't imagine something that has just like that has never existed in some form, or like could exist on some timeline or plane? And like, is it one of those things where like, if it, like, so for example, if enough people think that demons exist, can they actually conjure a demon?
I do believe that a form of that is possible. You can conjure a demon by asking it to be there, just as much as you can ask an angel for protection.
Don't ever do that, by the way. Don't conjure a demon.
Don't do that.
Bad.
Do not advise. But I was, to tell the story, I was at I was in an apartment on the 5th floor, and I was the top floor, and it was very windy and stormy that night. And I was getting into higher magic. I had set up a study manual. I had notebooks for notes. I had a higher magic book that I was studying. I had some other books that I was going to go through, and I started to really get into it because I love the idea of mental magic, because you can use it like this. You don't need to have implements.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to understand it, get a grasp of it, not to like become an ultimately powerful being. I just wanted to understand it and possibly use it to a benefit in terms of protection and, you know, psychic ability and meditation and that kind of thing. And I think it was the first or second night that I was studying, and I'm sitting on my couch, and I just, like, the wind is howling, and the apartment building would shake just a little tiny bit when the wind was really strong. And I could feel something out on my balcony. I had these big sliding screen doors. And I felt just this thing jumping around, like just back and forth like this. And I'm like, huh, okay, whatever that is. And then it's so hard to describe. In my dining area, which was to the right, this big shadow just boom, just landed. And I looked, and I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? I can't. And I just kind of was like, because normally when you look at something, it kind of vaporizes really fast. Like you didn't quite see it. It was just out of the corner of your eye. This thing stayed. And it had to be, it almost hit my ceiling. So I know it was about 8 feet tall, but it was hulked over like this. And it had the pointy kind of wings coming down. And it had the dog pig face kind of, and it was brawny. It was very wide. And it was just sitting like a gorilla kind of, you know. And I just saw the form of it in my living room or my dining room. And I just stared at it, and I'm like, oh God, what? I'm not going to move if you don't move. Like, don't move, buddy. What are we doing here? And I was terrified. Again, hadn't quite learned how to do the shielding thing or the protect. That's why I was studying higher magic, because I wanted to learn more. And then the thing on the patio started, I heard it kind of making a random like hee sounds. And I'm just like, I don't know about any of this now. I closed my book. I put it down. I'm like,
like,
we're done. And I mean, I was frozen with fear. I was terrified. We didn't have cell phones at this time. So I started focusing on the thing outside, and I kept saying, you can't come in here. You can't come in here. And the form of it started to appear. It had sort of a round belly and a round bobular head. It was sort of like a figure 8 shape with little spindly arms and a tail. And I was just like, that's an imp. I know that's an imp. What does it want? And then the gargoyle, which is what I was assuming that was, finally I looked over, and it went like this. and it just disappeared through the floor, just dropped. And I'm like, because it was standing between me and where my phone was.
Wow.
So as soon as it dropped, I got up and I think I grabbed one of my pillows because I was like, fuck, I'm just scared. I needed a security item. And I was so terrified and I was crying. And I called a friend of mine who was a high priest. And I was like, can you come over here? It was like 11:30 at night. And I'm like, I just saw some shit. I am terrified to death. I don't know if what I saw was real or if I am losing my mind. Can you please help me? I'm freaking out. And he's like, I will be right there. And he was there in about 15, 20 minutes. And he calmed me down and he started telling me about that. And this is what I told you when you were at the conference, how there's just I said, how did they know I was studying? He's like, what have you been reading? And I said, and I showed him the book and he's like, never dabble. And I'm like, I'm not, I was just reading. I have a study guide. Look, here's my notebooks and I'm taking notes. And I was like a class kind of a thing. And he's like, okay, well, if you want to do this, you're going to need to learn how to protect yourself. And I said, well, how did they know? And he said, because it's, imagine a dark room and you're that candle that lights up all of a sudden in the darkness. He's the one that told me that. And I went, oh. And they did that was that an Insidious? They kind of showed that a little bit when they would go into the room and they would see the light and they would know where to go because they could find that. It's a similar, it's not literally what it's like, but that's when they see light beings doing work, they're attracted to it. And I said, well, what the hell was the thing in my dining room? He goes, just a denizen. He's just checking you out. He's filing a report. Just think of it that way. And I'm like, he said, did he move? I said, no. And he goes, so did he look at you? I said, he was staring at me. And he goes, well, he's just checking you out. He's going to report back. I said, to who? He's like, well, to his master. And I'm like, oh, fuck, they're not going to come after me, are they? And he goes, well, you need to learn how to protect yourself. So,
wow.
I said, what about the imp on my balcony? And he's like, I don't worry about that. Those things just hang out and cause trouble. You can get rid of them pretty easily. And that thing never did come back. And I didn't see that gargoyle again. I saw another one years later, but it was a nice one. So.
Wow. Jesus Christ, Jenna. That would have scared the shit out of me. See,
I was terrified.
Yeah. Again, it's like the times when like there have been so many times in my life where I'm like, I kind of want to learn how to do magic and stuff like that. And I think that'd be actually pretty cool. And then I hear stories like this. I'm like, no, because I really don't like. I honestly like. I feel like I'm kind of self-aware in that I like to fuck around with things, and it would be one of those things where I would want to try stuff just to see what would happen, and I would end up conjuring some sort of demon or something by accident, and like, or that I thought I was being funny, but then it turns out it's really not actually funny to do these things because it can really fuck up your life. And I feel like if I even kind of got near this stuff, that's exactly what would happen.
You never dabble. And I mean that for everybody. I don't care how freaking advanced you think you are. Never dabble. If it comes down to you want to learn something, learn it, but always learn how to shield first. This is anytime I have people who are like, can you help me with things? I'm like, yes, but do you know how to shield? Start there. And then if you want to learn something, dedicate to it, learn everything you can. If it begins to feel like this isn't where I should be, stop. But never dabble. Never just go, hey, I learned a spell. Let's have a ritual. Oh, that burns me up. The newbies do that. Oh, I'm a witch now. I'm going to do magic. I'm like, oh.
No, don't do that. You have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
This is serious business.
It is.
Speaking of serious business, Bot wants to know, is there some kind of entity that comes from drains?
Oh, Bot. I am unaware of any drain entities, but I'm sure they could use it as a way in if you don't protect those when you do your clearing and protection rituals. But I wouldn't say there's like a drain spirit. No.
Mac B says, when people advocate and defend infidelity, are they basically wishing for themselves to get cheated on? I don't know about that.
That's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. I feel like it's a very specific question, Mac B. I question the origin of the question.
If you defend infidelity, then you don't have cheating because now you're just in an open relationship, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think that, like, in order for something to be infidelity or cheating, it would have to be the opposite of what you wanted, which is monogamy.
Right.
So.
But I wouldn't say they're like asking to be cheated on because I mean, if they're defending infidelity, Mac B, do you mean like if they defend infidelity in someone else or in someone else, they like excuse it in someone else's relationship? So are they asking to be cheated on in their own relationship? Because I'm not even sure I would agree with that, because it's like,
I don't understand their circumstances.
Yeah,
so,
you
I mean,
don't know
if
what's
you're
going
defending,
on.
like in my life, that's just not an okay thing. We're monogamous over here in the Jennifire house. But if I have friends who are poly and who have been in polyamorous relationships, and I'll defend them and their right to do it because that's their choice.
That's their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They can do whatever they want to do. Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that doesn't mean I want it. If I wanted it, I would be polyamorous.
Well, right. Right. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about or explore? I'm trying to remember. Like, I don't think I've had any other like interesting experiences that I would consider like a visitation or something like that. So I don't know.
I mean, there's always I mean, it's such a vast topic, but I kind of wanted to know if there was any questions from other people who've had experiences, or if there was anything. I hadn't really scanned the chat, honestly.
Oh, so guys, if you have questions, now is a good time to ask. I actually did see a question that I was curious what you thought about it. Do spirit catchers work?
Oh, spirit catchers or dream catchers? Like a dream catcher, like a Native American dream catcher? Because sometimes I've heard those referred to as spirit catchers.
Yeah, I think I was thinking like dream catchers when I read this.
So I've heard that, yes, they do. I had one made by a Native American, but he was a quarter something, and he made them and was sanctified to make them, or something. I guess, I don't know, he needed permission or something. And I hung it over my bed. I had nothing but nightmares.
Huh.
So I got rid of it. But so, I mean, I think it depends on your belief in the thing. It's like a good luck charm. I don't want to offend like Native American spirituality in any way. I've actually never asked a full-on Native American about it, and I would love to. I would absolutely, because that has been a question I've had as well. But the one that I had I had nightmares over and over and over, and I finally took it down and they stopped. And I think it was because of the person who made it put the wrong kind of energy into it. He was not necessarily a good person. So whatever it is that you use, it is the intention behind the thing. I think that's more important than the thing itself. If you want to take a Kleenex and bless it for good dreams and hang it on your wall, that would probably work just as well.
Huh. That makes a ton of sense. Renan says, I wish to learn the way of the shield. What is an easy way that people can shield themselves?
White light from above. First, you got to ground and focus. Feet planted on the ground, white light from above. And the way I like to envision it is either I like to have it shoot through me first into the earth. So I am that bead on a string. Then I have it fill me up from the bottom up, and then let it expand. Mm-hmm. There's another one that I do that I learned actually from a lady who channeled Pleiadians, which is working with auric energy. Not auric, like oracle,
auric.
Or oral, aura. And I'm trying to remember the order of it. It's rose gold, teal. And I just repeat the colors: gold, rose gold. No, it's gold, rose gold, teal. Gold, rose gold, teal. And it's a divine energy. The gold light is of divine origin. And then the teal is actually a throat chakra energy. The blue, the dark blue, but it's also God spot. God spot is right here. And that's your turquoise. So when you're combining your blue or your turquoise, you're expressing your protection. You're expressing your boundary. That's how it was described to me. So the rose gold is for a little bit of love from the heart chakra. And the heart chakra is green, but pink energy is associated with love. So you are protecting with love for myself and my fellows. And I'm expressing that you cannot come near me. And anytime I do that really quickly, that quick layer, I don't take on other people's garbage in my aura, and I feel a lot more better. But yeah, there's another one that's a quick egg. You just confine yourself in an egg, but again, fill it with white light, fill that egg. And imagine that egg is made out of something not permeable, like it is steel, nothing, or diamond. People go, oh, a layer of diamond. I'm like, whatever works for you. There's that, nothing can come through, and you just say nothing may penetrate my barrier.
Yeah.
And you have to radiate that too. You can't just go, I'm protected now, so please don't hurt me. I mean, you have to believe it.
Yeah, that's what I do when I'm going to the airport, and I'm like, I imagine like this white light all around me, and I push the like I like you said, like you start in the heart and you just like push it out, and you create like it's like a perimeter. And I'll tell you, like when I walk through like an airport, even if it's a really crowded airport, I always have a perimeter around me. I'm like, stay away. I don't want this energy. No.
Yeah. There's another that's called a wing shield. Some people believe that we have energetic wings, like angelic wings. Some people say they have bat wings, whatever your jam is, that you can bring them around like an angel, or you can imagine an angel standing behind you and bringing their wings around and just folding you in protection. That's a quick way to do it. If you just need to get out of a situation, just like a vampire with a cloak. But yeah, I like the quick fill and spread, and then I make that egg shape around me, and I don't let anybody in there.
It's an interesting experiment for people to do that are new to this stuff too, I find, because you actually can see, especially if like you're in a crowded place. I once did this when I was walking down the Vegas Strip as well, and I was like, if there's any way like place in the world that people are going to be bumping into, it's going to be the Vegas Strip when it's crowded. But no, it's like they maintain the perimeter. And I feel like with this stuff too, like the more I feel like when I was new to it, it's harder for me to believe it was real. But if I had experiences like walking down the Vegas Strip with like that type of thing, and seeing that like people just kind of like stayed away naturally, it makes it easier for you to be like, okay, this is actually real, which makes it easier for you to manifest, right?
It validates it. Yeah, because now you can reinforce that mental power on it. But honestly, find whatever imagery is powerful for you, whether it is feathers, whether it is an egg shape, whether it is a ball of steel or a ball of light, whether it's a tube that suddenly comes down, shunk, and like you're in a nice little confined, or a suit of armor. Whatever visualization is natural and good for you. Some people want to think of a stone wall. Just make it something that's easy and quick for you to visualize. Fill it with white light from above and your own heart chakra love, and know that is going to keep, nothing is going to come through that at you.
Let's see. Spiraling Monk says, I had some kind of shadow entity on Christmas Eve. On Christmas Day, I found out a close friend of the family died overnight of a stroke. I wondered if maybe that was him.
Very possibly. Very possibly. Was it a skulky, or like just like a hay visitation? Because sometimes you can't like see the thing, you see it. And if you see like just a shadow coming through, it could have been a spirit kind of going, hey, peace out, absolutely.
See ya.
Yeah.
Murphy's Pool says, does it mean anything if you can't be hypnotized? I can't be hypnotized. I won't let anyone have that power over me.
I've never tried it. I don't think I can either, but I've never had anyone try it. I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't know if I want that experience. I think, well, I mean, there was something I heard about. It doesn't mean anything spiritual. It's just a mental thing. It's like you have a strong mental presence and you just don't buy into other people's shit. Maybe.
Maybe. Bot says, I think I made myself invisible to people once because everyone kept bumping into me. Maybe you were just attracting them, Bot.
I was going to say the same thing. You might have been attracting the physical contact.
Yep. Daniel says a grounding stone or crystal can be used. Yeah, you can get like black crystals or red crystals for like the root chakra are also good.
Yes. That's why I love my hematite. It always keeps me centered.
Let's see. All right. I don't see any more questions or comments in the chat. So guys, last call if you have any questions or comments. This is making me want to get back into like this stuff and study magic though, Jennifire. I have to be honest. Like I feel like this is like one of those things where like, again, I feel like this is like a horrible idea and I don't really have the time for it. And I have a million other things I need to do that's not studying magic. But now I'm kind of like, maybe I want to study magic. I don't know.
It's always good to have a basic understanding of a few things, your chakra system, your energy system, the aura, how it all connects. A basic working knowledge of that I always recommend, because it's useful in healing and mental and emotional well-being, but also the protection. That having a basic working knowledge of things is always good. Understanding elemental magic or elemental energy is always good, or just come ask your local witch.
You can start a study group, a magic study group.
That's what covens are for. That's what I did with my coven. We had, lessons and studied, and we learned all kinds of things about deities and pantheons and sabbats and all this stuff and spirits.
Man. Bot says, one time I heard a breathing kind of growl behind me and I saw a big shadow on the wall in front of me. It felt not good. What was it?
Not good.
Not good.
Yeah, not good. Those are probably one of your more malevolent spirit entities. Sometimes with growling, I mean, it sounds a little demonic. It could just be trying to scare you. Remember, if you get hauntings, and we haven't talked about ghosts. If you have hauntings, or you have an entity like that, and you hear things that frighten you, growling, scratching, tapping, thumping, creaking, anything that makes you kind of go with your hair standing up on end, that is something that wants to feed off of your fear. Fear is delicious. Negativity is delicious. This is why your life starts to fall apart, because then you get depressed, you get sad, you get scared, you're upset, you're lonely. All those negative emotions are delicious food for these bad things. So if you get one around you, that's why the ultimate thing is project love at it. It can't touch that, and it will leave because love is gross to them.
So that's the secret. Just throw love at them and they'll go away.
Honestly, that's what I did when I talked to the guy that was possessed. I just I imagined like a big shield, like a Captain America shield, kind of like boom of white light. And I just threw love at it, just radiated, I love you. And it just would not approach, but it kept trying to intimidate me. But I'm like, you're not busting me up, dude.
Fascinating.
Love is the ultimate defense. Well, look at The Fifth Element. That was the whole object of that movie, was that love conquers evil.
I hated that movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
I hate that movie. I don't know what it was. I feel like it was the buildup, because like Victor loves that fucking movie. And he was telling me for years, like, we have to watch The Fifth Element, we have to do this. And I was like, no, I don't want to. I was just being like obstinate. But like by the time he actually forced me to watch it, I was like so teed up about it. I was like, this movie sucks and I never want to watch it again.
I just don't like it because you like it so much.
And maybe I really would like it if I watched it again, but I was like, no.
I was like that with Love Actually. Everybody was like, have you seen it? Have you seen it? Like my friends, my parents, oh, we watch it every year for Christmas. Oh, you gotta see it. And I watched it with just like, okay, make me like you. And then when I saw it, I hated it. I hated it so bad. And then just a couple of years ago, I watched it again. I'm like, oh, I love this movie. Why did I hate that? I don't know.
Anyway, well, I guess that's actually a really nice note to end on, that love conquers all. Just throw love at negative energy and it will not be able to touch you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You'd be surprised.
All right. Well, what are we doing for movie night this week, Jennifire? We've got a redo of movie night last week because your power went out.
Yes, my power went out, and so we couldn't. I was so mad. So here's the thing. I forgot that I had promised a community member a birthday movie the first week of August.
Oh.
And so Murphy's Pool had requested a movie.
Oh no. What are we watching?
I think it's called Always. Is that right, MP? I think it's called Always. I have to look it up. It's Tuesday, right? It's still Tuesday? Okay.
Yeah.
I have to look it up, make sure I can get it. But I know he had sent me a message and requested it, and his birthday was actually in July. But I was doing going through all the military wars and stuff. And so, or the American wars. And so he's like, well, let's just do it the first week of August. And I'm like, okay.
Waiting. Waiting is a great movie. Okay. I'm on board now. Okay. I thought Murphy's Pool was going to suggest something weird, but this is a great movie, actually.
There is a movie called Always, but that's not okay. Waiting. Yeah, I've got it in the message. So I have to, in our messages. So I have to make sure I can find it. I don't know. I'll have to, yeah. So I was thinking what I would do, because I am going on vacation next week.
Okay.
So I will be gone. We're leaving Monday.
We have the week off of DISENRAGE.
A week off of but I want to do because I promised him, and he's been making sure that his work is like he's got the night off and everything. So I want to honor that. And then since I've already got everything done for oh God, what was it that we're Full Metal Jacket, then we'll do that the next weekend when I get back. And I'm all hopped up on vacation, and I don't feel like doing movie night trivia. Now I'm talking about energy trivia and all this stuff. I'll already have it ready to go. So I will do Waiting this week, and we'll do Full Metal Jacket the weekend after that. And then we'll pick up with our normal routine, whatever I had in August.
Awesome. That sounds great. I'm actually really excited. Have you seen Waiting?
I don't think so. No.
It's legitimately hilarious. You're going to love it.
Oh, no. I know I haven't, because I watched the preview, the trailer. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it. It looks adorable.
No, it's good. Naruto says, have you seen Destination Truth? I used to love that show. I've never seen it. Have you seen it?
Awfully familiar. If I have, I didn't.
Truth.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds familiar. I probably caught it here or there, but not. I don't remember it.
Man, I don't watch any TV at all. Anyway, all right. Well, I guess that's all for this week. We learned a lot about different types of entities and all this stuff. It was fascinating, Jennifire. Thank you for walking me through all of your experiences. I'm really glad you didn't get possessed at some point. That would.
They don't want any of this. Trust me.
All right. Well, guys, we will be taking next week off of DISENRAGE because Jennifire is on vacation, but we will be looking forward to our triumphant return in a couple of weeks, and we'll see you guys then. And of course, for movie night on Sunday, so we'll look forward to that. And please mount the like button on the way out the door. Please make sure you're subscribed if you are not already. And take care, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.